Welcome to the Academy Wales Introduction to Continuous Improvement, or CI. This is an introduction and should be treated as such. This online video is focused on continuous improvement and will explain the efficiencies, improvements and innovations you can enable by applying CI methodologies. You will gain an overview of the theory behind CI and the difference it can make to the way we think and work. The Tools and Techniques section will give you some tips for applying CI in your workplace. This introduction has 5 sections. What is continuous improvement? Tools and techniques, recognizing and reducing waste, sustainability, and next steps, or where you can find help and support. So, what is continuous improvement? This section is split into 4 areas. What is continuous improvement? Why should we improve? What are we trying to improve? And who is responsible for improvement? What is continuous improvement? Improvement is about people working together to provide better services for the people and communities in Wales, ultimately improving the environmental, economic, social and cultural well-being of Wales. Why do we need to continually improve? This is a sign outside a hospital in India and is an adaptation of a Gandhi quote. A customer is the most important visitor on our premises. They are not dependent on us, we are dependent on them. They are not an interruption in our work, they are the purpose of it. They are not an outsider in our service, they are part of it. We are not doing them a favour by serving them, they are doing us a favour by giving us the opportunity to do so. It is worth reminding ourselves, in all our work, in every process we undertake, we are doing it to serve the community, better, sooner, now and in the future. Whether it be in direct contact with the community or maybe in the background, providing better services, or even supporting a workshop to share good practice, which in turn will benefit the community. The community is central to all our processes, whether we see them on a daily basis or not, and as such, they should also be central to all our improvement efforts. What are we trying to improve? In improvement work, we are always trying to improve quality. But to do this, we need to understand what we mean by quality. An example of this is when you take your car to a garage for a service. I'm sure there are things that you'd expect from that garage that if they didn't have in place, you wouldn't be very happy. You'd expect them to be polite and definitely qualified staff, that they're working to a standard. They're using the appropriate equipment and materials, delivering the service agreed or what is required, in a timely manner that hopefully you've already discussed, and at a reasonable price. Some garages will offer you the niceties, such as a car drop-off, valet, or a cuppa. These do not define quality. All quality must be customer-centred. They should also have characteristics such as safe, effective, responsive, efficient, and equitable. Who is responsible for delivering improvement? You may have heard of the story about when President John F. Kennedy visited NASA prior to the moon landings. Taking a comfort break during his visit, he met a cleaner who was cleaning the floor. JFK asked the cleaner, "May I ask what you're doing here?" The man replied, "I am helping to put a man on the moon." If you were asked the same question at work, what would your answer be? Everyone is responsible for improving their service. Also, improvement has to be done collaboratively to get the best improvements. It's also worth remembering, if you think you know the answer, then you're probably wrong. Tools and techniques. There are many tools and techniques around continuous improvement. Just try a search engine and see the results. We are going to touch on a few that, from our experience, seem to resonate in the public services. We'll have a quick look at Lean, Six Sigma, systems thinking, and the model for improvement. Lean thinking. Lean came from Japanese car manufacturers and has spread around the world and across industries. Lean is a unified, comprehensive set of philosophies, rules, guidelines, tools, and techniques for improving and optimizing processes. Key Lean principles are customer value, value stream, flow, pull, and perfection. There have been some excellent results using Lean in the public sector. An example is Farming Connect. Customer waiting time has been reduced by 80%. The process is now streamlined to the point where the customer can apply for services within 2 to 3 days of registering, instead of 2 to 3 weeks. The power of Lean is that everyone can understand it, and the results can be physically seen. Lean aims to reduce waste to improve quality. Let's look at the 5 Lean principles. Specify what creates value from the perspective of the customer and not individual functions or departments. Identify the value stream for each product or service providing that value, and challenge all of the wasted steps. Make those activities that create value flow without interruption, detours, backflows, waiting, or rework. Respond to what is pulled by the customer, i.e., what the customer needs. Manage towards perfection so that number of steps and the amount of time and information needed to service the customer continually falls. These principles are a cycle and will continue, and you must remember that Lean aims to reduce waste to improve quality. Six Sigma. Six Sigma as a goal was first coined by Bill Smith of Motorola in 1986. Initially, a quality drive to eliminate variation and achieve Six Sigma capability for all Motorola's processes. By the year 2000 and the publication of Six Sigma, the Breakthrough Management Strategy by Michael Harry and Richard Schroeder, Six Sigma was being credited with huge financial savings in blue chip companies across the USA. Above all, Six Sigma is customer focused. How can you improve the service you give customers until you know what your customers want and how they measure you? The Six Sigma approach targets practitioners on improvement projects, projects selected based on business need by a senior team, regular project reviews by the senior team, using statistics in support of solving business issues, use cross-functional teams, works on improving systems, not beating up the poor old workers. If I asked you, is 99% good? What would be your answer? In public services, if we were 99% good, we would be providing an excellent service for the people and communities in Wales. Let's look at some of the results of being 99% good. Just take a minute to look over these. Would you be happy drinking tap water? Or would you like to take a flight to a holiday destination? What about being without electricity for 7 hours a month? Now let's take a look at what those results would be like if we use Six Sigma. Looks pretty impressive now, doesn't it? So, what is Sigma? Sigma is a measure of variation. The lower the variation, the higher the quality. In other words, the fewer the number of defects, the higher the sigma level. 6 sigma is 3.4 defects per million opportunities, or 99.9996666 recurring perfection. The use of statistical tools facilitates process improvement and control, gets the correct information from the data, gets the maximum information from the minimum data, and the aim is to produce process improvement leaders with the right statistical skills, but not to produce statisticians. Let's look at the most important element of Six Sigma and the main idea that we borrow from it. The key point is to use a logical, structured approach rather than gut feel. DMAIC stands for Define, Measure, Analyse, Improve and Control. If all public sector staff adopt this approach to improving services, it'll transform our service beyond recognition. DMAIC is a method of satisfying customer expectations by improving the quality of processes. As we've mentioned, it has 5 phases. Define. Clearly define the problem to be resolved and build a team to help you do this. Measure. Identify what's going on, what actually is happening. Establish a baseline. Analyze. Collect data. View the process to find the probable cause of the problems. Improve. Generate ideas to correct the problem and test these ideas before implementation. Control. Ensure the problem doesn't come back by putting in controls to make it sustainable. Most importantly, it involves teamwork. At the end of each stage, check with the project champion that the tollgate question has been answered. These can be regular checks throughout the project. This is a common sense process for solving problems, yet as managers we tend to focus our efforts solely on the improve stage, with predictably poor results. Let's look at some of the tools useful at each of the 5 stages of DMAIC. We'll start off with Define. The first tool we're going to talk about is the Project Charter. This is a charter owned by you and has specific details about your project. It's a bit like a project initiation document, but only 1 page. Stakeholder mapping. This is to look at all the stakeholders that may be affected or are involved in the process you're looking at. You want to find out if they're for or against your project and how much influence they have. Lastly, in Define, we're going to look at a high-level process map. This is very high level and should maybe contain 6 or 7 steps of the process. Measure. Let's look at the data collection. Do you have a data collection plan? Who's going to collect the data? Why are they going to collect the data? Where and when? Let's make it as easy as possible for those collecting the data. Is there anything you can't measure? An example is chili peppers and how they devised a way to tell how hot it was, the Scoville unit. Run charts. Plot your data to see what is actually happening and see a baseline for yourself. So if you make any amendments or changes and it's an improvement, you'll be able to see this with evidence. Here's a great quote about measurement. If you can't express something in the form of numbers, you don't really know much about it. If you don't know much about it, you cannot control it. If you cannot control it, you're at the mercy of chance. Analyze. Have you heard of spaghetti diagrams? This is a pictorial view of the movement of either an object or a person. It could be a form moving back and forth and retracing its tracks. At the end of it, it can quite often look like a bowl of spaghetti. Process mapping. This is where we delve a little deeper to look at potential issues, but only go as deep as you need to. Fishbone diagram or Ishikawa diagram. This is where at the head of the fishbone you have the problem, and off it come all the potential causes. You can even group them under headers. Pareto analysis. This is the 80-20 rule, where 80% of your issues are caused by 20% of your steps. Improve. Now we need to do some divergent thinking. We've narrowed down the root causes, the possible ones. So now we need to generate as many possible solutions as we can. You can use such tools as brainstorming, negative brainstorming, which if you turn brainstorming on its head, what can you do to make things worse? 5 whys, assumption busting, and benchmarking. You show me yours and I'll show you mine. We have the ease benefit matrix as well. How easy is it to implement this improvement? And what benefit will it give us? 5 whys. This is great for assumption busting. Have you heard the story about the Jefferson Memorial? It was crumbling and they had to do something about it. So they kept on asking, why was it crumbling? They kept on asking this question over a period of time. And in the end, they came up with a solution that was actually cheaper, more cost effective, and did the job. Plan, Do, Study, Act, or PDSA cycle. We'll talk a bit about this with a model for improvement later on. This is used for small testing. Test out your theories. So you plan, you test, you actually do it, physically do what you want to do, but in a small, safe environment. Then you stop to study the results, and hopefully you've got what you wanted. And if you have, then you act on it and implement it, maybe on a larger scale. The final stage in DMAIC is control. 5S. What does 5S mean? It means sort, set, shine, standardize, and sustain. Here you'll see a picture of before and after a storeroom cupboard in a hospital. Everything has its place. 5S is a method of standardizing the work environment so that exceptions become easily visible. This means they can be controlled before they lead to problems. The best way to achieve this is visual management. They say a picture paints 1,000 words, but it's a lot quicker. Team information boards. These are boards where you can gather and have meetings to discuss how the process is going and if there are any issues. Control charts. If you keep measuring your data, you can see the capability of your process. And hopefully it will produce the desired outcomes. Now let's look at systems thinking. John Seddon's book focuses on what systems thinking means in the public services, so it's very relevant to the work we do. In the simplest terms, systems thinking, as with lean thinking, looks at identifying and removing waste with the customer at heart. We will show systems thinking beside command and control and how working characteristics differ. On this image, you'll see the characteristics of an organisation down the middle. To the left, you'll see the command and control way of working, and then against on the right, systems thinking. Let's look at the first characteristic, perspective, or an attitude towards. As you can see, command and control way of working, it's top-down hierarchy, where the senior manager makes the decisions. But in systems thinking, it's an outside-in system, which means they get their ideas of what the customer wants and their needs. Number 2, design of work. Functional specialization and procedures in a command and control way. Or when you look at systems thinking, it's about the demand and the value and the flow, a bit like lean thinking. Number 3, attitude towards customers. Well, in a command and control, contractual. You do this for us, we do this for you. But in systems thinking, it's actually what matters to the customer. Then we have decision making. In command and control, it's separated from the work, so it's not the people doing the work who make the decisions. Systems thinking is integrated with the work, so those people who are doing it actually can make the changes themselves. Then we go on to measurement. When we look at measurement and the command and control, it's all about outputs, targets, activity, standards related to budgets. Where when you look at systems thinking, it's all about the capability of the system, the variation related to the purpose of why they're there. Attitude towards suppliers. As you can see here, contractual, which again is you do this for us, we do this for you. Or systems thinking, cooperative. Let's work together to make the system work. Management ethos. Well, command and control, again, control budgets, manage people. Where systems thinking, you learn through action on the system. So your managers are actually learning about the system as much as they can. So hopefully they can improve. And finally, assumptions about motivation. Extrinsic, which means a carrot and stick. We pay you this, you do that. Or is it intrinsic, which is something a bit more than yourself, being part of something that's bigger than yourself? It's worth noting that in a systems thinking environment, there is a dependency on each of the other characteristics for it all to work. So, where does your organisation fit within these characteristics? Are you more command and control? Or are you heading towards system thinking? Now, the model for improvement. Any improvement project should follow a structured approach. The aims of the project must be clearly defined. Having decided the small project, then determine how you will recognise success of the project and what you can measure to identify this success. Are there other things that need measuring to ensure that something else has not deteriorated? Countermeasures. An example of this is when measuring length of stay is that you should also measure return rates or readmission rates to ensure that speed has not meant you no longer get it right first time. So, having identified the change and how you will recognise and measure success, then decide how to make the change. This three-stage approach, aims, measures, ideas, is often referred to as the Nolan approach. Addressing these questions leads to the Plan, Do, Study, Act or PDSA cycle, used as a guide to the implementation of and learning from the changes. The natural tendency is to start with too large a project. Try and commence with a small change. Perhaps try it with one patient or on one day, and then measure the change. By gradually accumulating the effects of many PDSA cycles, the results will be large changes. Recognising and reducing waste. In this section, we're going to cover 4 parts. What is waste? Types of waste. Where to find waste. How to reduce waste. What is waste? Waste is an activity that doesn't add value from a customer perspective. You can distinguish processed activities into 3 categories: value added, essential non-value added, non-value added. Typically, 25% of activities can be removed from an established process without impeding its operation, with a corresponding saving in costs. Care must be taken, as it's not usually realistic to remove all of the non-value added steps. Essential non-value added steps are the ones which, whilst not strictly necessary, do allow for a more efficient or faster operation of the process. For example, measurement activities. Let's look at the types of waste. There are a few acronyms around for waste. You may be familiar with some, such as Tim Wood's, but we have our own. Must I do it? M is for motion, movement, moving around, be it people or objects. U, unclear communication. I'm sure you can think of some of those in your area. S is stuff you've collected, gathered, that you keep. T is timeliness, or delays and waiting. You may be waiting for a decision. I, inappropriate processes. These could be processes that don't even have to be done at all. They may be historic. D, defects, or errors, or rework. Things that have to be redone. We're not getting it right first time. O, overproduction. Overproducing things just in case, or even because it may be cheaper to buy in bulk rather than buying what you need. I, inconsistency. Do you have any inconsistent processes? T is talent. There's probably a lot of staff around with untapped talent that we don't use that would be useful within our organisation. Where can I find waste? Waste can be found in many steps of your process. Process mapping is the ideal tool to challenge any activity in the process. A process map is a pictorial view of the sequence of steps in a process. It allows you to see all the value added and non-value added, or waste, activities. Process mapping needs to include any staff involved or affected by the process. How are we going to reduce waste? Process mapping is one of the most important tools in the service improvement. It's taking your baseline, understanding where you are now. It's simply about observing a process in action and recording the results on paper. What's important is to capture what is really happening as opposed to what the policy says should be happening. This is the reality of the system, and to make any meaningful improvements, you need to understand it, warts and all. It's also a good opportunity for the whole team to understand each other's roles and how their work impacts on each other. Once you have the pictorial view of what is actually happening, you can then challenge each step to see if you can do things better or even take the step out. Don't forget, this needs to be done as a team to include any staff involved or affected by the process. Sustainability. This section is about how we now transform the new process to the way of working, the norm, and how we can keep the gains. Quality improvement often takes longer than expected to take hold and longer still to become widely and firmly established within an organisation. One of the primary reasons why quality improvement is difficult to integrate into an organisation is that many of the changes that are put into place fail to survive. There is evidence to support a high failure rate of up to 70% of organisational change. In an attempt to substantially increase the sustainability of improvements for citizens and public services, the sustainability model, adapted from the NHS sustainability model, has been developed for use by individuals and teams who are involved in local improvement initiatives. The sustainability model is a diagnostic tool that is used to predict the likelihood of sustainability for your improvement project. Before using the model, it is important to be clear about what sustainability means in public services. A short definition of sustainability can be described as when new ways of working and improved outcomes become the norm. Next steps. If you'd like to find out more about continuous improvement, please visit the Academy Wales website and subscribe to our bulletin and choose continuous improvement as one of your options. You'll then be added to our mailing list and we will inform you when CI training or events are being advertised. Our training includes a short supporting CI workshop, and for the more adventurous, we also run a longer in-depth practitioner program. There is also a community of practice across public and voluntary services based in Wales. known as the All Wales Continuous Improvement Community, or ORSIC. Members are built up of continuous improvement practitioners with a wide knowledge base of continuous improvement techniques. Within the All Wales Continuous Improvement Community, you will be able to network, which you'll be able to connect with people who are doing the same type of work, meet with like-minded practitioners and strengthen links between public services, make contacts across a range of organisations, learn, see case studies, understand how benefits can be achieved, attend events, or speak at national and regional events throughout the year. Share. We share the learning we've gained from our good, bad and ugly experiences. You can showcase your work. We will publish your case studies or reviews or interventions or any other continuous improvement work. Contribute and let others in the community learn from your work. Improve. Find opportunities to collaborate on projects with practitioners in other organisations. Change the way we work using collaborative learning to shape decision making. Influence change and policy making by using data and experiences from the community. You can join the All Wales Continuous Improvement Community in the networks area of our website, where you can access information around continuous improvement, including tools, techniques and recent materials. To make contact, email orsic@gov.wales. Follow us on Twitter at AllWalesCIC and subscribe to our bulletin and select All Wales Continuous Improvement Community to receive the latest event alerts and updates. We hope you enjoyed and benefited from this e-learning module, an introduction to continuous improvement. We would be grateful if you would complete the short online feedback form. Thank you.